when I got asked to do this a week ago, I basically, I was saying, what is innovation really? I mean, I got my master's in business and I'm still sitting here going, innovation, innovation. Am I innovative? Have I innovated anything? And basically, what I've done in my work now is I've basically tried to package up everything I learned through my career and in mental toughness, package it all up and basically place it in what I do right now. So I got to write a dissertation in my master's on mental toughness in a professional hockey perspective in the UK and England the last 2 years while I was playing and while I was finishing my career. And I knew it was going to be over. And I was lucky enough to be able to call my career, which a lot of guys don't. So basically I said to myself, what is this? What is this mental toughness? I mean, it's like talking about innovation, really. And basically, this is the best definition I could come up with. And basically, what that is mental toughness is having the natural or developed psychological edge that enables you, one, generally to cope better with your opponents with the many demands, competition, training, lifestyle, that sport places on a performer. And two, specifically, be more consistent and better than your opponents in remaining determined, focused, confident, and under control under pressure. So when I was talking to one of the other TEDs out there, I was talking about I enjoy actually making myself uncomfortable, and it sounds crazy, right? But that really is just what innovation's all about. It's about failing. It's about putting yourself out there, trying to figure out where you're supposed to go, what path you're supposed to be on, and I really get satisfaction out of that. I look for another Game 7 every day of my life. That's what I do. And people say, well, that's got to be pretty stressful. And in a way, really, that's what we're all supposed to be doing. We're all supposed to be making ourselves uncomfortable, because life is not this packaged, put together trip that we're supposed to go on. It's really not. And when we think it is, something else happens. Something else derails us from that, right? So anyways, in my dissertation, I took a book by a guy by the name of Terry Olrich, and basically what he talked about was the Wheel of Excellence. And in there, some of these facts I'll share with you, but basically one was commitment. And I was able to play for Team Canada, the national program. And I remember waking up, I was in Calgary, and I'm thinking about the people in Calgary right now, just because the floods that are happening out there, and kind of how they're going to cope with what's happening in their own situation right now. And I remember getting up, and where the Bow River's, basically overflowing right now. I used to drive down, and I used to go to the Father David Bauer Center, and I would be there. I'd be up at 6 in the morning. I would go to practice for 7 a.m. Or I'd be on the bike. I was in the fat club, actually, if you put it that way. I was actually fat at that time. My body percent, my body fat was way higher, and I had to get it down. So basically what happened is I was there on the bike 7 in the morning. Then I'd practice from 9 to 11. I'd break a little bit for lunch, and then basically I'd be on the bike or in the weight room again for another 2 hours. And you can imagine, I was pretty done at the end of that. But I was committed to that. And that's something that I package up and bring to my life right now. Nobody can outcompete me. And it sounds cocky, right? But nobody can outcompete me. That's the way I look at it. And nobody's going to question my work ethic or my drive. Basically, mental readiness. And this is where my talk is kind of shifted here, but I really believe that I need to share a story with you because it's all about impact for me. And basically, I hated my dad. He came from a split family. And hate's a strong word, right? But I hated him. And, there was a lot of emotional things that happened there, hence mental toughness, right? Little did I know, just to cut back, this guy cared about me enough to ask me to come to a Christian hockey school in Grand Rapids and basically mentor the kids. Well, this guy got up and he gave his testimonial talking about some not nice things that happened to him as a kid. And I said, geez, I wasn't even close to that. Well, he was able to go to his dad and say to his dad, can you forgive me for hating you? And I was just blown away. I was just blown absolutely away. I remember I wasn't going to let that feeling stop me. I got on the plane, flew home, got in my car, went to see my dad. And when I got there, basically I looked him in the eyes and I said, Dad, can you forgive me for hating you? And he looked back at me and he was like, he looked at me like I had 10 heads, and I had to say it again. I said, Dad, no, I'm serious now. I said, can you forgive me for hating you? And it was like two of the biggest weights were just pulled right out of our bodies. And when I talk about mental readiness and kind of what I do today and how I put that, I am so clear, the clarity and the awareness that I have just from that one moment is absolutely phenomenal. And the reason why I share that story with you guys from a mental point of view, because I know there's somebody in this room right now and somebody out there that is affected by the exact same thing that I am, or I was. So again, that's where I'm aware, I'm on a path, I'm following that path. Now, positive imagery, it's something just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. It was funny because I went to training camp. I was drafted by the Ottawa Senators, and my first training camp was Daniel Alfredson's first training camp. And when I think about positive imagery, I mean, maybe some of you guys saw the interview the other night where he basically, the reporter asked him, he said, can you, the Ottawa Senators, and he's the captain of the team, can you, the Ottawa Senators, beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 3 games in a row? And I don't know if any of you saw it, but Daniel was just kind of, he got caught in trolley tracks, right? Great guy, great player, way better than me, suitcase, right? Suitcase, journeyman all over the map. And I'll tell you, he goes, no. And I was just in shock. And I mean, from positive imagery, I mean, we can see it in so many different ways. I mean, I watched a lot of video when I played to kind of say whether I was going to do this or that. But imagine my captain saying, and what the image that I get in my head when he says no. Well, imagine if we just switched that a little bit and we broke that down and we said, and he looked back at it and he said, well, if we ask ourselves that question that way, you're right, no, we can't win. But if we ask ourselves, can we win one game? And then if we take it back and we ask ourselves, can we win one shift? Can I win one shift? Well, now, positively in my mind, I know that I can win one shift. You know? And you just build on that, right? It's all about the process. So I know we're talking about innovation here, but all these things mentally and when I hear about virtual sales and stuff like that, it's just this stuff right here in positive imagery. How many people are going to be overwhelmed if they think that they can't go to their bricks and mortar and work? So these are little things that we got to think about. Distraction control. I'm sure that all of us in the world today struggle with this. I know I do. I'm not perfect. But I look at a guy like, from a mental point of view, I look at a guy like Tiger Woods, and this is what I share with people when I go out and talk to other hockey teams, because to be a pro, the window is very small. I mean, it's not like being a golfer, and don't get me wrong, Tiger Woods is the best golfer these eyes have ever seen, and he'll be back. There's no question about it. But when you put certain things into your life, there's not a person in the world that can handle these things. So I go and tell young hockey players, and again, I bring this into my own life, about how I'm going to run my business, how I'm going to be the most authentic person I can be, right? So I tell them, I said, the window of opportunity for you guys to actually play this game is about 5 years, as it was for me. And, you know, if you're a golfer, maybe you can put your career back on track. But what I do in my own business now is I use a tool called Simpleology, and I have all these ideas that come into my head, right? And basically, I need to dump them somewhere. So I use Simpleology, I dump them in there. The top CEOs use this tool. And I dump them in there, and then I have a sheet about 6 things that I have to do that day. And I put myself on the clock, right? Like my life is a game. I've always treated it that way. So I put myself on the clock to say, listen, I gotta read for an hour. Once that clock goes off, once that bell rings, then I move on to the next thing. Whether it's writing, I write for an hour, then I move on to the next thing. I exercise for an hour, ding. So I got 6 things I gotta get through. I got calls to make, all these kinds of things. I make my life a game. How many calls can I get in that hour? Now, confidence. Now, this is always a hard thing to talk about, because everybody, and my coach, Andy Murray, by the way, who was my coach with the national team, coached the LA Kings, you know, he looks at confidence and says he just doesn't buy it. He doesn't believe it. Doesn't believe in the word. And we all get thrown off of our track sometimes, right? In terms of what confidence is. And I look at Sidney Crosby now, and I think it's just phenomenal. But imagine a guy like that who, if he doesn't score for 3 games, like the media's all over him, right? So how does that affect your confidence, basically, is what you say. But Sidney Crosby said a quote, and I just loved it. And he said, basically, I'm going to be the best in the world, and I'm going to accept all those things that come with that. So you think that, what kind of a statement is that, right? And I mean, that's not, again, you might think that's cocky, but that's just phenomenal. And if you're going to innovate and do other things, that's the way you got to think. You got to think, like I heard the girl up here this morning was talking about how, you know, I wanted to be a rapper, and everybody was saying, no, you can't do that. Well, look at her, right? Anybody in here, we're all in an internal battle. It's all an internal struggle. And all you're doing is just trying to coax your own mind. You're just trying to get to yourself. There's nothing out there that's fighting you or holding you back from doing what you want to do. I mean, you can make an excuse and say that, geez, things are tough. My dad, I hate my dad. Well, whose fault is that? It's really mine. It doesn't affect anybody else except for me. Okay? Now, focus. If we were to put all those things together in the middle, we have this focus. And my thinking is that you have to have a why. You got to have a why that makes you cry. You got to have a why that makes you stay up late, get up early. I mean, this being able to talk here today. I mean, I was up late last night, up early this morning. I was stoked. Again, I was looking for another Game 7. And in this kind of environment, it's just perfect. I say, I don't even know anything about innovation, right? And I'm sitting here, no, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this. It's time to perform now. All right, so all these little things, I mean, people can try and derail you, but I mean, it's just you yourself. You yourself that can have that focus. And really, I talk about this mentally, but if you're not physically fit, then you can't possibly be mentally fit if you get my drift. And there's a lot of toxins in our food and all that kind of stuff these days, but in order for us to be on top of things, we have to be physically fit first and foremost. Now, something that I like to talk about, and this is a great quote that I like to use with people, and it says, your need to win drains you of power. Now, a lot of people look at me and say, well, what does that mean? Like, don't I got to win? Like, don't I got to win? And believe me, I want to win. I want to win all the time. I'm basically, that's bred in me to win. Again, my life's a game. I want to win, but what people don't understand is it's all about the process that you go through. But like, the reward is in the work that you do. And it's so much like innovation. The reward's in the work. How many times do you think these guys fail before that happens? And I'll tell you right now, hockey players are scared to fail. And the weird thing about it is they don't know that they failed so many times to be a great hockey player. So it's one of those things that is so weird. And I'll tell you right now, I've been out there talking with agents because in my business, I'm going to deal with a lot of hockey players. But the problem is that when they're done their career, like they're emotionally, they're not there because they've just done something they've loved, and they don't understand how they can go about and do something else that they love that much. Again, so emotionally, they're detached, whether they have money or they don't have money. They could sit there and be flexible, however you want to look at it. But really, what is rich, right? What is rich? I mean, you can have the most money in the world, but really, rich is being on your path, being able to follow it, being able to do what you were put on this earth to do, right? And really, we're so scared to step out there and want to do that. We don't want to do that, right? But really, that's where it all is. That's where the fun is. And the only thing that really scares me is not being good enough. It's crazy, but good enough, honestly, good enough doesn't get anything done. Good enough doesn't innovate. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you just want to be good enough, it's not going to happen. It's not going to get there. So that's what I'm saying. To innovate, you have to go to places that are very, very uncomfortable. And just finally, like I said to you, I'm looking for another Game 7 all the time. I like to work with hockey guys. Sean Thornton's a friend of mine who's obviously plays for Boston, won 2 Stanley Cups. And if you would have told me he would have won 2 Stanley Cups at all the guys I played with, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. But the guy has earned every inch that he's gotten. He had to fight the toughest guys in the league. When I go into my job now, I sit there and I get scared. I pick up the phone sometimes. I'm like, I used to look across the ice at a guy and think I got to go out there and fight that guy. So, I mean, what I do now is not even that hard, But when you look at things, when you just change your mindset a little bit to look at things that way, and like I said, Sean Thornton was making a comment the other day. He was saying, you know, as a boy, as a young boy, I didn't dream about marrying my wife. You know, I dream about winning the Stanley Cup. So what I'm going to ask you, and that just totally plays into the comment that I just made. So when you take that Stanley Cup away, so what do you have now? And that's what happens to these guys is that, and don't get me wrong, they're great people. Hockey players are great people. We're probably the most outgoing in terms of, you know, meeting with fan base and that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, basically that's kind of my mission, if I could tell you, if I could put it bluntly, is that I need to basically package what I have over here, basically put it into the world here and teach these guys that there actually is another Stanley Cup to win. Thank you.